And here we go. And here we go. Okay, everyone. Okay, so today, guys, we are going to speak something regarding the corporate world. Okay, so there are two aims of today's session. One is the initial first 30 minutes, we are going to discuss something about some corporate techniques and how you should operate, how you should think, how you should behave in the industry. So we will be discussing about those techniques which will be really useful for you for a long time in your career. Okay, and the second thing is we will spend some time where you will work in groups so that you prepare for tomorrow's session. Okay, so whatever you might have done, just interact with one another, with your group member, just plan it out what to do, what are the topics you will cover. If possible, create an image of that, post it on social media that tomorrow you are going to come live where. Today, if possible, you can go live on that platform. Let's say if you're trying on Facebook Live or Instagram Live. So today itself in the call, you can just go, come live, speak to each other, check on the technical setup if it is working all properly so that there is no surprise tomorrow. Okay. So all of that, let's close it in the remaining 30 minutes of the session. Okay. But chalo, first half, okay, it's about corporate related valuable inputs. Okay. Dekho, whenever a task comes, how exactly you should deal with work, okay? And majority of the times, it's just any other task, whether it's a career related task or any other life task you're performing. So almost I felt ki the same way you can do it even for our regular non-corporate related things also in your personal life. Okay. Now, how exactly to do? Chalo, let's get started. Dekho, first of all, whenever in your life, okay, or in your work, it is applying, process applies for both. Whenever in your life or in your work, if there is any task to be done, something to be completed, okay, your first step is you should have full clarity ki what exactly is expected out of you. Okay, without clarity, if you even get started, multiple other blunders will happen. Okay, so at least you should have the basic minimum required clarity based upon which you can plan your actions and take your actions. But if you're not clear, if there is so much confusion, if you don't know what to do with that, even if you start your work, it is going to become a mess as it goes forward. Okay, so very important thing, guys, whatever work gets assigned to you, first of all, get the clarity, get your understanding stamped. Okay, this is how it is supposed to be done, and ask multiple questions so there should not be any assumptions or question marks in your head or confusion in your head. Get the clarity, that is step number one. Because देखो guys, क्या होता है, requirements in IT will be provided in some tools like Jira or Asana or Microsoft Planner or any such tools. Okay, one tool, and requirements will be given in written format. So people will type the requirements and then they will be shared. Now there could be key people get in a call with each other, they clarify the requirements there. Okay, but the thing is ki eventually the requirements has to be documented somewhere, so it is generally written in Jira, and it is quite possible, okay, it is quite possible that during typing a few things will get missed out. It is quite possible that during explaining a few things get missed out. So that's where you need to read the requirements clearly. If there are questions, ask them, get the new things also updated in Jira. So for all you guys, whichever company you are or you will be working, always make sure, this is where many projects, many kind of companies sometimes overlook this, but that really backfires and your life will become hell. Requirements should be tracked in tool like Jira, properly written what exactly is expected and what is the acceptance criteria of the ticket. If the requirements are only in words, always the development team, technical team will be at risk. Why? Because the person who gave the requirement, the product owner or the client, at any given point of time, they can say, hey, we never said this, or we explained something else, you explained, understood something else, now it's your problem. Okay, if the requirements are not documented, okay, what exactly you guys discussed, if it is not in written form, it can always backfire on you. So step number one, before getting started, make sure that these things are there. If it is not there in your team, work for getting it. Get the requirements documented. No word talks. Write the requirements, at least high level, what is required. Second, get the clarity. Get the clarity, what exactly needs to be done. Okay, fine. Now comes the third part, guys. Okay, now this is important. You need to spend time in defining scope and estimation. Okay, scope and estimation. Let's focus on both of the areas. First one, scope of the project or the task that you're doing. Okay, different tasks will have different level of complexity. There will be some tasks which might be done in like 2 days, sometimes might take 5 days, some tasks might be a mini projects in itself, which might go for like 2 months, 3 months kind of. Okay, so different project, different requirements, different use cases might take different amount of time. You need to think a bit more sensibly here. Even though you start at a junior level in your company, but still care enough to understand the full scope of whatever work you guys are going to do. Okay, what is the project about, how much time we are talking about, the full big picture kya hai iska? And then once you know that big picture, okay, acha, we have to develop this use case, that use case, blah blah blah, once you know that, then you get into estimation, how much time it will take. Okay, now it's important, guys, now all of you guys, with regards to estimation, so just know the third step is getting the scope clear. Sometimes what happens is requirement might be a lot, but then you have to say, Are bhai, you're giving 20 requirements, not possible to do. First, we will focus on only 5. That becomes the scope. So you don't care about remaining 15. So you need to define the scope key, what you will be working on right now. Once that scope is defined, identified, then you get down to estimations of that. Okay, guys, every step is very important. Don't overlook it. It's going to backfire otherwise. That's where projects fail, because they don't upfront do all of these plannings properly. Okay, and it needs maturity to get to that level so that everything can go right, but it happens. Okay, people get evolved. Now comes the fourth step, estimation. Now, guys, understand key, whenever there is a requirement, so let's say in Jira the requirement is given, something needs to be done. So there are multiple components which you need to consider while estimating the work. Just take a simple use case which has UI, server, and tester. There is a UI to work, there is a server work, there is a tester work. Now understand, different companies, there are some companies where full stacks will be there. One guy itself does UI plus server. Many companies encourage even that kind of a culture ki chota item hai, so ek hi person does UI server. But there will be some companies where they will say UI people are different, server people are different. Okay, server guys have to mandatorily know the database. Okay, don't think a DB will be done by a third person. Okay, in my entire 12 years, I have never seen that happen. The server guys does the database always. Okay, there will be DBAs, database specialists, but those are special categories. Okay, nothing but for performance tuning and DB optimization, query optimization, the master slave kind of systems, DR kind of systems, slow query processing. So DBA have a different role, but all the backend guys are supposed to know database. You should design database, you should write your application which connects, mandatory. Okay, now comes the next phase, estimating. Okay, you need to understand UI, server, QA. Estimation is how much time will this task take to finish. Now comes the question, what all factors, देखो guys, हवा में बात नहीं करनी. You cannot just give words in the air, 2 दिन लगेगा. You cannot just say that. You need to know internal breakups. Many people struggle even in the industry to really give the estimations. You need to understand how we estimate. Okay. Step number one, estimation is a long process. How do we estimate? What are the factors to be considered? Okay. Estimation may step number one. Okay. How much time will designing and approach finalization take? ऐसा नहीं होता requirement came and immediately you start coding it. You need to spend some time, maybe alone or with your team members. But design, what does design mean? Ki, okay, so for this requirement, what kind of interfaces you will be using? So already, let's say in your classes, in your project, there is already all that code available. So spend some time in figuring out in terms of design, like which are the services which you where you will be coding. Okay, database wise, how the database structure should be. Okay, next, can this code become somehow reusable in our existing system? Do we have this functionality already? Can we plug it in here also? Or is there an existing API with slight modification? Can we work here also? Or do we have to write it from scratch? Is there any design pattern which we can plug in to meet this requirement? All of that thought process has to happen before you start with the development. Without this, you will code, and that you will code it messy. Okay. So at junior level, I will highly encourage you to have at least one conversation with your other team members. Ki, this is how I'm planning to do. Is my approach right? In the beginning days, at least for the few tasks, do that, and then you learn by itself ki, what to do next. Okay. So when you estimate, you need to consider, depending upon complexity of work, how much time will designing take? Sometimes it might be few hours, and we are not talking about days. It might be few hours, like half of a day, maybe we can finish the design. Okay, you can just say that if the design is complex, if there are dependencies, okay, we need some third party answers and blah blah blah, तो थोड़ा आगे पीछे जाता. But first, designing. Second factor, coding. Okay, how much time will a UI developer take? Next, how much time a server developer take for coding? Okay, designing, UI developer time, server developer time. Next, dev testing time, where UI and the server will integrate with one another, and the testing is going to happen where they will meet the acceptance criteria by looking at the requirements. So developer testing, how much time will that take? Next, UI unit testing, how much time will that take? So they have their own way of doing unit testing on UI side. Next, server unit testing, how much time will that take? Sometimes if the development time takes 2 days, even unit testing might take 2 or 3 days also. Again, depending upon what projects you are in, it will be enforced or relaxed, it depends. But it's usually valuable. Long systems, big systems cannot run without unit testing. It becomes almost mandatory to have it, because anything if breaks in the system, unit testing will be able to catch it. ठीक है, तो कहाँ तक पहुंच गया? Designing, UI development, server development, dev testing. Next, UI unit testing, server unit testing. Okay, these components done. Next, how much time required for test case writing? Okay, अभी tester भी cover होते हैं यहाँ पे. How much time required for test case writing? Next, how much time required for test case execution? So once they will write it, then they will execute it. Okay, sometimes now some buffer is added ki by code review. So design review will happen, code review will happen, QA reviews will also happen, test case reviews and all that. Some few hours might be added. What will happen in the end is, considering all these factors, you will get ki how many man hours will be possible to complete this work. Okay, nothing but UI person says I will take 2 days, server person says I will take like 1 day, the QA says I will take like this. Based upon this breakup, then you merge this together and say, okay, so if one person does all of this, it is going to take, let's say, 6 days of work. Hours mein calculate ho jata. You just do the math here, you will get Indian hours. Then you split it up, then you get K total. This work is of, let's say, 30 man hours or 40 man hours. So people start speaking in that terminology. That means if one man works on that or one woman works on that, so it will take that much time to finish. But then comes ki, okay, we will be doing parallelly. The UI server starts parallelly. So nothing but estimation. The total time required to finish that ticket is 4 days of work or 5 days of work in man hours. Okay. But the thing is, in reality, people will work on that parallel. So just get clear. Total estimate is in man hours. But when you work on that parallel, UI guy is also working, server guy also working, QA guy also working, you will realize 5 days work can be finished in 3 days because they are working parallelly. So generally that's where in sprint, 2 days, 3 days, my features become ready because people are working parallelly on that. But just understand the next step is you need to do this estimation for the overall feature. And there you are liable as at least a junior level to be able to tell how much you need for completing your work. If you are a server person, you should be able to estimate server development plus server integration testing plus server unit testing. How much time will you need for that? Maybe designing will also come and then design reviews will come. So you look from your area and then tell it accordingly. That becomes part of the planning further. Okay. So guys, very important. Without this, don't really start, guys. I would recommend my entire team always, okay, know the scope first, what needs to be done, get that clarity first. After that, spend some time in estimating. It will take this much time. Once it is clear, then only start with the coding. Otherwise, it backfires. Okay, fine. So far, so good, guys. Okay, it's required. Without that, life mein bahut problems aayenge, and then you will learn based upon trial and error, and in the end you will draw these same conclusions, maybe a bit here and there, but almost same conclusions. Okay, now next thing, what we have done in our system, okay, no, everybody has their own way of doing it. What we have done in our system is almost daily we do the reviews. Okay, why? Because many companies might not do it, but somewhere I work with my leads of the team, and together we have built this system. We do daily reviews. Daily code reviews will happen for UI guys, for server guys, for QA guys. Design reviews will happen, coding reviews will happen, and QA test case review will happen, execution review will happen every day if they do. So generally we work in sprints. Sprint is 2 weeks of work. So 2 weeks where you have to finish some portion, take it to production. That's how sprints operate. Features are taken into 2 weeks chunk and deployed in production. In that 2 weeks, on a daily basis, we do our reviews. The reason is that we will never go wrong. Because even if there is some problem, tomorrow people will fix it, or that day itself people will fix it. So whenever we end our day, we do like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of review of each other's code. So it's a peer review, pair review, lead review. All of that happens as a mandatory measure we have introduced in the system, so that aage jaake, in the previous times, without this, what used to happen is people code everything and then they open it for review, and then there is like, make this change, make that change, and that impacts the giving to the QA and release, and a lot of mess used to happen. So we just changed it around. Daily we will do review. So I will encourage you to do reviews not at the very end. If you can do it on the going journey, a lot of rework will be avoided. Otherwise you are really inviting some big time problems. Okay, so just understand that. Now fine, so far so clear. This is what required. Now comes, guys, key. There are first understand the value of unit testing. Okay, Google it out. Very valuable. It's required. As a developer, don't think it's unnecessary. You need to. If you are thinking like that, that means you are not yet matured enough. Your mind is not. Still, there is something for you to learn. Okay, no, understand the value why it is required. If you're not able to capture the sense, you still have growth to be done. It's very important. It's very important. Okay, now moving on. So far yahan tak ho gaya. Now while you code, okay, there are tools available in the market which helps you to follow good coding practices and which will be enforced on your projects. Okay, some tools like Sonar is available. free versions available, sonar. I would highly recommend all of you guys ki even though you are doing your local coding and testing in your local whatever applications, always plug in sonar and code together. It's just, I think, a plugin, the way it plugs in Eclipse. You can set up a sonar lint in your machine with your IDs, and those, okay, these sonar rules are the best coding practices. And constantly, whenever you code something, these rules will tell you what have you done right, what have you done wrong, where is the risk, where is criticality, and the code will guide you, the tool will guide you to do the best coding practices. And over a period of time, why? Because you cannot teach everything every time to everybody, because people will keep coming going, it's IT industry. So always habituate to this kind of a sonar tool. If it is not there in your teams, encourage them to install it, because good disciplined coding will start happening, and it will tell you, okay, where are the risks, where you have done some violations of security breaches and something like that, and the tool will also suggest you on how to change it. Okay, so always it is available in UI version, also it is available for server guys also. Okay, now focus on that while you code on a day-to-day basis. Okay, now few things you need to really understand how to do the testing of the code which you did. So you need to have the two clear, very major awareness. One is, how do you work with branching? Something branching is like Git or Bitbucket or SVN or ClearCase or any other branching tool of the world. It is a repository basically where the code will be eventually placed, central place. So you need to have clear-cut understanding of how the branching model works in your company. Different companies, projects will have a different branching model. You need to understand, even as a beginner level, without that understanding, you will risk up a lot of things. So you need to have understanding of two things. One is branching, second is the environments. What kind of environments are available in your project? Dev environment, QA environment, stage environment, production environment, or is there third, or is there a Docker based environment, or simply without Dockers? Okay, so there are in infrastructure. Okay, can you do some testing in your local machine? What can be tested on a remote machine, and how many people can test together in that machine? You need to have clarity in all of these areas. Very important. Without this clarity, code लेके हाथ में बैठे रहोगे or otherwise you will cause a blunder. Okay, so you need to know which branch can be merged to what branch, from which branch code can be deployed to which environment. That needs clarity. Okay, otherwise problems will come. So there will be tools, processes, systems, whatever in the companies, but get the understanding. Don't just be like what's happening. So two things. Okay, before getting into for testing, what can be tested in local, what needs to be tested in environments, and in the environment, what goes in dev, which branch goes in dev, when you can do the dev, because 5 people are together using the dev environment, so don't override each other's code. Or are there containers available? So understand your teams, your projects deployment testing model, because team to team it will differ. Okay, fine, get that full clarity. Then you start with your testing, and all of that phase happens, and yes, your full testing karke code will be given forward for the QA, and rest is all a life cycle, guys. Bugs will come, this, that. Okay, one important thing I would like to share: how do you debug? How do you solve problem when it comes? Many people struggle rapidly on this one. They don't know how to debug. They are like, okay, broken, now what to do? God knows. In especially, I'm speaking about juniors. So over a period of time, then they learn. But many of them, they are like blank. Oh, it's not working. Okay, we know it's not working. So what's going wrong? How can it work? So that's what you have to know, how to debug. Okay, simple होती है चीजें. Okay, देखो, first of all, you need to think very clean. Okay, mind has to be open. Okay, you need to think very clean. Just 1 second, guys. Okay, so first important thing, key loggers are required in your system. You need to put logs. Okay. So whether it's UI side development or a server side development, introducing proper logs is mandatory. Without that, you will never find anything. Logs are mandatory. That's it. Log4j, SLF4j on the server side, UI waloka, they will have their own stuff then. But loggers are mandatory. So for all critical places, you need to write loggers so that when you're running your application, the logs will come. You go to that file, you see what's happening, what's not happening. And log ke andar print the right data. In the logs, you need to print the right data. Okay. Now comes the next thing. Key and like all across, you can just say method starting, method ending. And in the method, if there are 2-3 crucial logics, you can put some logger statements there. So a detailed logging will really help you to debug your application properly. Okay. Now comes the thing key, what levels you should choose. Generally, production will always run in an info mode log. So you need to get this maturity. Key, what kind of data for debugging will be required in production and what kind of data for debugging will be required in the non-prod environments. So when to use debug, when to use trace, when to use info, you need to get that clarity working with your seniors of the team. So whatever you feel are crucial, info aega, because production maybe if something goes wrong, you should be able to debug. And if you use a debug mode, it will be only for your non-prods environment. Generally, people have that kind of a model. Okay, fine. So get awareness of that. So logs will come. Now understand. Now let me tell you a real scenario. Okay. Now majority of the projects, they are not a single machine project. In my project, we have like 50 plus services. Okay. And there are multiple nodes, multiple services running, or scalable services are there. Now, what will happen? Let's say you have written one service which is doing some functionality. Let's say 10 instances are running in production of that service. Okay, any logic, 10 services are written, 10 Java applications are running in the system, same code, back behind a load balancer. So there is a AWS, let's say load balancer is navigating. Now, what is this scenario? Practical, many projects have this scenario. Now, what will happen? Let's say there are 10 instances. And all of a sudden, now the situation is, if you want to debug, okay, somebody logged in and what happened if the login request is not working, or tried to do some payment and the payment is not working, or something has gone wrong. How do you debug 10 node system? Okay. So that's where it becomes pretty tight and critical. Key, will you log into 10 different places where these machines, generally they will be on different machines also. So will you log into 10 different places where the services will be available, their logs will be available? It's not a practical solution. You cannot log in 10 different logs and keep seeing everywhere ki where is my functionality. Okay. Because it will happen only on one of the server. Load balancer will give your request to only one of the instance at a time. That guy process, it generated its own log. So 9 instances will not have your log, one instance will have it. And you cannot keep hunting 10 instances to find this one instance. It's not practical solution. That's where in real world, there are solutions for it. Let's say Kibana is available. Okay. Or there might be some other tool which basically clubs these logs together in one central system. So even though let's say there are 50 nodes which are generating logs, they will all be centralized into a Kibana system. Okay. So there will be other tools also. Majority are, many of the people are using Kibana. So the logs will be available there. So you don't have to go to machines for logging in big systems. You will just be getting everything in Kibana. And there itself, you can grab one central place you can find and you can get everything. Okay. So just understand. So you need to be aware ki kahan kya kya hota hai. Otherwise, you will be like, I know only machine-based logging and yahan to fir abhi Kibana hai. What is this? So don't be confused. There will be new processes, complicated processes also. Spend time in understanding it. Okay. So first thing, how to debug is clear-cut logging should be available. With this logging, either it will go to the machines or it will go to Kibana. So whenever you're trying to do some use case, see these logs and try to then relate these logs with your code and try to really see what exactly is happening, where exactly things are going wrong. If there are any exceptions coming in your logs, okay, immediately copy that exception, paste it in Google. Don't go to friend or anybody. Okay, that exception stack trace will tell which line number, which variable, basically which class, which method, which line number is having problem. So go to that line, compare. Okay, so this is the exception stack trace, this is the line number. Think it, look at the before logs, and then try to see, oh, here this has gone wrong. Okay, so you have to tally your code with the logs which are generated, with the exceptions which are coming, and then make decisions what to do, what not to do. Okay, if you don't have clear, guys, assumption may never fix anything. Sometimes the developers make this mistake also, they are not able to find the right problem, root cause is not found, still they fix the problem. Okay, maybe that might be happening, so let me change it. Never do that, it will backfire on you. So always first reproduce the problem, test it, be sure that this has happened, that is where this has gone wrong. Now let me change this. Without root cause analysis, don't fix problems, because you will end up inviting more problems in your system. Okay, and that's a very big risk. Fine. So then you make the changes. Other way of doing things is, guys, you simply will okay, like Eclipse based debugging is available. So but generally, if you are trying to connect to a remote server, it is very risky. So if it is local machine, your own machine, you try to connect with Eclipse and try to see the Eclipse based debugging, where you just do a mouse over on every variable and you can see all the values. That's like a Brahmastra. That will solve all your problems, because that gives you insight into the internal memory while the application is running, the value of every single variable. So sometimes when logs are not helpful, problem is not being solved, then you would have to use this kind of a debugging, which gives you an internal memory insight. What is the value of every variable available, which helps you in debug. And I think with that, everything gets sorted out. Okay, so just understand. Okay, fine. Now another, I'll just give you some input key. Start gaining infrastructure knowledge. Okay, how your code will be running in the machines and systems. Like this, we spoke about load balancer will be there, how the services will be connecting. And in the current times, guys, a lot of cloud services are also being used. Okay, for example, AWS is providing so many services. Okay, for example, SQS, it's a messaging service provided by AWS. Okay, next, AWS is providing a service for its own caching. Okay, so the way Redis cache was available, like that, AWS is providing its own service for caching. It is providing its own service for NoSQL databases. Okay, nothing but all these are add-on services which will be used by the application developer, and you need to have the ability to explore, do some POC and use it in your application. Okay, and one important thing, because these services will have its services, those, okay, customers will be ready to pay for these services and use in your application. Why? Because why to develop those services? So you will realize ki people will be taking ready-made solutions also from the market for getting the work done. So many of the AWS services will be used for that purpose. So people will pay, they will purchase. So you should know how to work, how to integrate with all of this. Okay, so fine, just be aware of that, because it might come. I'm just telling based upon what I see in my project, but I know it's a very big world, a lot of things happening. You will listen a lot of terminology. Okay, and infrastructure pay, put a special attention, all the server side guys. Okay, it's really required to know what's happening under the hood. It's not a world where only Java coding and application focus was enough. You need to know what's going to happen in your infrastructure, because there is a lot of drama happening there. Okay, and I think slowly and steadily everybody will start saying, okay, we need Java plus AWS guys, kind of, because both knowledge will become almost default for any application developer. Okay, and let's say infrastructure management के लिए generally for a team of, let's say, 10 people or 20 people, there is one DevOps guy. Okay, or the portion of DevOps is very small compared to the full team. Or sometimes for big projects there will be a separate DevOps team This team is going to work for multiple projects of the entire company. That means just imagine it is a very small percentage of DevOps who will just do initial something, but for maintaining and a lot of other things, developers should have that knowledge. So don't be afraid, don't be scared, be ready to learn and go. Okay. So this is how step by step. So you get the requirements, get it clarified, do the scoping, and then get down to the estimations. Consider all these factors in estimations, do the reviews on a regular basis, know the environments, do the testing properly, do the debugging properly, and then fix the problems, give it to the QA and take it to production. Okay. Consider these other basics, whatever we cared about as part of Sonar, as part of Kibana, and all those things will become part of your day-to-day life. Okay. Now let me speak something just highlighting about the QA world. If you say this is really, I've seen something really bad happening in the market. Okay. People have really taken only one skill, and that's so horrible. Okay, first of all, there are two brackets, manual QA and automation QA. Okay, manual QA में public बोलती है I am only a UI QA. मतलब I can see only what is there in the browser and do UI testing. Like what is, okay, people don't know how to do API testing and they call themselves a manual tester. And they have been doing work in the industry for 5 years. They don't know still API testing. Okay, that's silly. Okay, that shows ki how much you don't know what you are doing, how much you are not careful about your careers. Okay, that's really bad. So if you are calling yourself a manual QA, you should know UI testing, you should know API testing, you should know security testing, and you should be able to know basic database testing. The query knowledge is required. All these are basic, bare minimum. Plus, you should know how to write proper test cases, how to cover positive cases, how to cover negative cases. All that package becomes default expectation. Without that, you will not become a good tester anytime. Forget about manual or automation. If you don't have these skills, you will not become a good tester anytime. Okay. Then comes, if you are done with all this area, then comes automation related, where coding knowledge will also be required. Plus, first is you need to have a QA brain you want to automate. And the QA brain is important to be able to see scenarios which will fail. Many times developers might not see, product might not see, a QA is supposed to see that. Okay, that's where it's a testing job is a critical job. The work, if something breaks in production, the first person responsible is the tester. Okay, how did you allow that to happen? Then it comes later on to the developer. So it's a very responsible job to understand it, what it asks for. Okay, a bigger bracket. It's a lot of responsibility there as well. Fine. And when it comes to UI testing, if anybody of you is a UI developer or a tester testing UI or a full stack wanting to work on UI, always remember UI is okay. You code something. Now you need to make sure it runs across different browsers. You need to make sure it runs across different browser sizes, desktop sizes, machine sizes, mobile version, tablet version, desktop version, different sizes of desktop version, different resolutions. So what you are covering, sometimes different operating systems also. Okay, because operating system specific browsers will be there. Chrome on Mac might work differently. Chrome on Windows at times. Chrome is a standard, so they have made it. But there are some browsers which even function a bit different. So OS level, browser level, machine level, you need to get into that level of testing. You need to understand what is the scope of your project. And while you do your coding, you need to get into that level of testing. Okay? So very important. We put attention on that. And then comes multilingual, because in the end, it's all about customer. Different countries or different regions will have different languages. Okay? And another thing which is going in the UI world, uh, some people become stylist, specialist in only styling area. Okay, nothing but CSS, Bootstrap, and there are frameworks there only styling related, like beautification of the pages. And there will be some who will focus much on the Angular and the logic part of UI. Okay, my suggestion will be, bhai, if you have picked up UI, try to be good in both. But market is not having such people. There are like, hum to sirf stylist hai. There are some who have like, I have not done that in my team. There was somebody, but just understand. Abhi, we are one side saying become a full stack. You know UI, you know server. There is bigger than that. Public in their territory, they have further broken down the things. That's horrible. Okay, so QA mein jaake they are further like, we are only UI, we are only API, we are this. Be a full QA, and then you see how the project applies. That's what, there is always a learning curve. So don't stop it there. Okay, fine. This is what we would like to discuss today about some basic touch points, the keys, the things to focus upon as part of your corporate journey. Okay, so the session is recorded, it's already live stream on YouTube. So if you want to go through it again, go through it and count it through. Fine. Ooh. So all the very best. It's a big world, a lot of things happening. So just be composed, be ready. Life will teach you a lot, but just be ready to welcome the learnings. Okay, you will learn based upon your experiences plus other experiences. Now we have 15 minutes, guys. Okay, so I would just say connect with your peers. So who do we have in the list? I'll just tell out the names. So connect with your peers for tomorrow 9 p.m. session, everyone, and just have a discussion. Okay, what topic, how you want to do it, for how long it is going to be available. Okay, so this is what I have the names with me. So right now, for let's have a 15 minutes catch up with everyone. Okay, individually you guys connect. Hopefully already you might have connected with one another. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so Divesh and Shruti, Akhila and Apsar, Nigar and Lakshmi, and Chenu and me. Okay, so guys, spend next 15 minutes, reach out to one another on wherever you want, WhatsApp calls, whatever, you figure out your own ways. Get in touch with one another, discuss about tomorrow 9 p.m, plan your session. If you have done it already, well and good. Nahi hai, to do some planning, but even if possible, do experiment. If possible, go live right now, only see how it is working, so that tomorrow 9 p.m there is no drama. Okay, so just do that, whatever topic it is. And once, meanwhile, guys, can you just write it in chat about the topic by everybody? So we can just put the topic name at least here. Everyone in the chat, please place your topic names, all the 4 groups. Okay. Akhila and Apsar are going to take a topic on Spring. Okay. Next, guys, what is the topic for all the other members? Shruti, Divesh, what's your topic? Nigar, Lakshmi, what's your topic?
Art of testing, art of building resume.
Arey, type it, Re, Shruti. Okay, Nigar and Lakshmi is book summary and life learnings. Okay. Next, Shenu is the journey from college to Accenture. Sahi hai. Okay, nice. Okay, Divesh and Shruti, yes. Yeah, type it through. Art of building resume. Okay, nice. Very good, very good. So nice, valuable topics coming from everyone. Okay, art of building resume. Now, everybody, quick reminder, tomorrow sharp 9, we will all be going live in whatever ways you choose. So now itself experiment. If possible, go live in the same manner. Just speak it out to one another, see your faces, just have a talk maybe. Okay, tomorrow 9 p.m. we will come and take this topic. It will be interesting. Itna have the conversation. So you'll already feel relaxed right now. And there is no technical glitches tomorrow. Okay. Facebook live will work. Instagram live will work. If you have any other third way, go ahead, do that. But both of you should be available and should be streamed live somewhere publicly. Okay, so fine, guys, continue. And meanwhile, I'll share the attendance. So let's do this thing. Okay, so first mark the attendance, everybody. So let's mark the attendance. After that, you guys connect with one another, and then independently you can close your sessions. So it's not required to pull you guys back again here. 1 second. And everyone, so from 5th September, we are starting with the next season of this, where more, again, it's all about habit wiring. So it's not about knowing it, it's about living it. So you can just mark your uh, registration as part of this, so that I can do proper follow-ups and reminders with you guys. Okay, so this is about CT 105. And those who are only attending like the first time or the second time, I would recommend still keep repeating. Okay, at least 3 seasons, try to repeat minimum, so that these things will wire more nicely as part of your regular routine. Okay, so if anybody of you just do the registration here, so that I can do follow-ups via email or WhatsApp, so you will be part of the group, so that you will not miss out the close update. Okay, meanwhile, let me share the attendance for today. Meanwhile, attendance for today. Code is, let's say, 9999. This is the link. Okay. So, okay, guys, chalo, let's mark the attendance, close your end of the day activity, go to the day tracking sheet, do all of that, post it on LinkedIn. So you can do all that, but yes, now independently coordinate with your member, and tomorrow let's go live, everyone. Okay. So if possible, right now, give a trial. Chalo. Yes, Shinu.
So, can you suggest me any website for designing posters? I think you said earlier, but I forgot it.
Poster na, acha, canva.com. Okay. Yeah, CANVA. It's nice, free, and lot of it's good. You can really use it. Okay. So basically, two things: either do the editing on straight away Instagram story editor, you can do it there, or canva.com. I pasted the link here. You can apply. A lot of predefined templates are there. Canva ko jao. It's easy. You just upload whatever image you want. You can change it there. So Instagram may still you have to play around a lot. Canva is simple there. ठीक है. Okay, ठीक है, guys. So chalo, continue your day. Mark the attendance. Close it tomorrow 9 p.m. We go live independently. ठीक है. Fine. And then there will be last day Friday of the session. And yeah, the learning never stops, guys. There is always something to be discussed. So thank you all. Shinu, I'll reach out to you in WhatsApp. Yeah. Chalo. Thank you, everybody, and have a nice day. Take care.